Victorians are set to pay twice for the government's response to the COVID pandemic, with a new levy to remain for 10 whole years to pay down the state's COVID debt. Businesses in Victoria are set to bear the brunt, with a new boost to payroll tax announced in today's state budget. Property owners will also be whacked with a decade of extra taxes. Joining me now is Liberal Senator for Victoria, David Van. David, thank you so much for your time. I know estimates is on, so it's good of you to spare me a moment. Haven't businesses in Victoria already been hit hard enough these last 3 years? Now this tax is on top of everything. How will they cope?
Hi, Amanda, and it's a shame not having you here in Estimates with us. You know, I loved serving with you on the Legal and Con Committee. What a joke. I mean, if businesses hadn't been hit hard enough during the longest lockdown in COVID in the world, to now be hit by this budget, it's beggars belief that this Treasurer, let alone the Premier who wrought all this damage, can walk outside in public and show his face. I mean, the shame he must be feeling to deliver a budget that punishes people who did it the hardest, did it the toughest, is beyond me.
This increase to payroll tax will hit the largest employers, so it's not being levied on small mum and dad and coffee shop or restaurant businesses to the extent that any are left in Victoria after the COVID lockdowns. But still, this extra cost to employers will be passed down onto customers one way or another, surely. When people are already struggling with the cost of living, how's that going to play out?
Well, the cost of living is just gone through the roof in Victoria for all the obvious reasons. Now, you know, as we both know that, you know, you can't tax your way out of inflation or out of the sort of economic problems that Victoria is facing. Yet a payroll tax is a double whammy because it's a further hit to productivity. So we're going to see wages come down, we're going to see jobs fail because people aren't going to employ people when it's just going to ratchet up their payroll tax. And to the extent that they're putting it up, I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's staggering exactly how high this is all going. And let's not forget, on top of this, even though they're sacking 4,000 public servants, one bit of the budget I don't have a huge problem with. However, the overall budget for the wage bill for public service in Victoria is still going up to $38.8 billion. $38.8 billion for public servants, despite sacking 4,000. Can someone explain that to me?
And 40 by the end of the forward estimates. And for people with investment
plus
properties,
171 billion in
a
debt.
million. Yeah, and none of that debt, the fundamental non-COVID debt, is being touched at all. So for people with investment properties, almost a million will be slugged, an annual fee of up to $975 a year, which will no doubt have an impact on the rents of people who are struggling most. What do you make of it?
Well, it's going to have one of two effects, if not both in equal measure. It's going to mean either people get out of their rental property, which is going to diminish the supply of rental properties because, you know, given the housing market, owner-occupiers will step in, or landlords are going to have to put up their rent, which is only going to hit the lowest earners out in the Victorian economy harder because their rent will go up.
This is going to be a 10-year reminder of the harsh COVID lockdowns. The budget is making for really hard reading, I'm sure, for many Victorians. You know, a huge debt, public sector jobs, bill blowout, funding to community groups and government programs cut. It's just going to keep going on and on. As John Ferguson writes in The Australian today, the Andrews government is imposing a significant handbrake on private sector growth as a political device to deal with surging interest rate costs. What do you make of that statement?
Well, John's got it exactly right there. And, you know, as I said before, you know, this is taxing productivity. This is not a way to increase the size of the pie such that all Victorians get a greater share, more jobs, higher wages, all the things that Labor likes to promise. It's actually going to diminish every Victorian, because those costs will be passed on and passed on for the next 10 years. Now, let's remember that even though that COVID only went for roughly 3 years, but we were locked down for 270 days, businesses were closed for all that time. So many businesses never opened again, including coffee shop near me and many, many others. People did it really tough, and now they're being punished again, by paying higher prices, and people will lose their jobs in this scenario.
I'm so sorry. I've got to end it there. I had wanted to talk with you about Iran, but Senator David Van, thank you so much for your time and your contributions.